I started watching how emotionally immature people react under pressure, and after a while, the pattern became impossible to ignore. After studying these behaviors closely, I can tell you this: low emotional intelligence shows up in the same 7 ways, again and again. Today, we are breaking down all 7, the deeper psychological reasons behind them, and what you can do right now to learn to deal with someone like this without losing your own emotional intelligence.
But before we go further, I want to note that this is a very empathy-driven video. We will not be bashing people who show any of these signs, because we all did at some point in life. What I'd love for you to get out of this is learning what you can to handle such people in such situations well. Watch till the end, and you'll gain both the knowledge and the answers.
So let's begin. Sign 1. They treat criticism like an attack. Even gentle feedback feels like war. They defend, deflect, blame shift, or shut down before you finish your sentence. Emotionally intelligent people can sit in discomfort long enough to learn from it. People with low emotional intelligence need to escape that discomfort fast. Now, why does this happen? Because criticism does not feel like feedback to them. It feels like danger. Very often, the part they are defending is the exact part where their self-esteem is already wounded. Somewhere inside, they already feel weak, ashamed, exposed, or not enough in that area. And even if they try hard not to show any vulnerability, that reaction itself is vulnerability. It is a shield going up around a part of them that already feels hurt. These reactions often come from helplessness, from years of feeling misunderstood, unheard, unseen, or emotionally dismissed. So even a gentle comment can land like an attack because it touches something that already feels raw. What looks like aggression is often just self-protection wearing armor. So, how do you deal with a person like this? If your goal is to preserve the relationship, direct criticism makes the wall go up even faster. What helps more is softening your delivery, lowering the sense of threat, and trying to understand what exactly they are protecting. But if someone cannot tolerate even respectful feedback and every conversation turns into a battle, then you may need to ask yourself a harder question. Is this a relationship you can adjust to, or one you need to walk away from?
Sign 2. They misread the emotional temperature. Wrong joke, wrong moment, wrong tone. They miss what the room is feeling. This is not just awkwardness. It is a disconnect from other people's inner world. Why does this happen? Sometimes it comes from ego. Sometimes it comes from emotional deprivation. Some people grew up in homes where emotions were ignored, dismissed, or punished. Some were kept at a distance, spoken down to, or made to feel that their emotional voice did not matter. So they learn to disconnect from feeling altogether. And when someone learns early that emotions are useless or unsafe, they often stop reading them in themselves and in others. So, how do you handle a person like this? First, figure out what you are actually dealing with. Is this a genuine lack of emotional awareness, or is this a toxic lack of care? If the person is sincere but emotionally limited, they may slowly learn to open up and become more aware over time, especially with patience or therapy. But if what you are seeing is chronic self-absorption, where your feelings simply do not matter to them, then you may not be dealing with innocence. You may be dealing with toxicity, and toxicity is a lot harder to deal with without getting professional help. Sign 3. Their apologies are exits, not repairs. They say sorry, but only to end the tension. There is no real ownership, no real change. The apology is not about healing the damage, it is about getting past it. Why does this happen? Because real accountability requires emotional strength. Some people do not apologize deeply because they cannot tolerate shame, discomfort, or tension long enough to stay present with what they did. They rush to sorry as a way out. Sometimes this comes from emotional repression, sometimes from years of control, humiliation, or relationships where survival meant ending conflict as quickly as possible. So instead of processing the pain they caused, they use apology as an escape hatch. So what do you do when you are dealing with someone like this? Sometimes they are emotionally careless, but sometimes they genuinely do not understand how deeply they hurt you. If the person matters, honest and calm conversations can help. Sometimes people need the wound explained clearly before they can truly take responsibility for it. But if they keep hurting you, keep apologizing for form's sake, and never change, then at some point you have to stop confusing words with repair.
Sign 4. Everything circles back to them. You share something painful, and within a minute, the spotlight is back on their story, their pain, their experience. Not always out of cruelty, often out of incapacity. Real empathy requires leaving yourself for a moment. They often cannot. Why does this happen? This is one of the hardest signs because these people are not always bad people. They may be generous, helpful, loyal, spiritual, or deeply involved in family life, but emotionally, they are so consumed by their own inner world that they cannot stay with yours for long. Their own pain, unmet needs, and inner noise keep keep hijacking the conversation. Sometimes it is not cruelty, it is emotional immaturity, deep self-involvement, or such inner scarcity that they do not know how to truly hold space for someone else. So how do you respond to someone like this? This one is quite difficult, and in many cases, there is not much you personally can do until life shows them consequences, like people pulling away, conversations ending, relationships cooling down. That insight usually has to come from reality, not from your explanation, and that's the difficulty of it. What you can do is stop forcing yourself to stay in conversations that erase you. You can calmly say that at the moment, this conversation isn't working for you. Offer to talk later, end the interaction, and leave without drama.
Sign 5. They live in emotional extremes. Everything is amazing or terrible. People are angels or villains. A small trigger becomes a full emotional storm, and everyone around them ends up walking on eggshells. Why does this happen? Because their inner world has very little regulation. They're not just reacting to what is happening right now. They're often reacting through old chaos still living in their nervous system. A small moment hits an old wound, and suddenly the reaction becomes far bigger than the situation in front of them. So what looks dramatic on the outside is often a system on the inside that never learned balance. So how do you navigate someone like this? Usually, your job is not to fix their emotional storms. Your job is to stop treating their urgency like your emergency. If this person matters to you, you may keep them in your life and work on soothing the depth of their reactions by making them feel welcome, secure, and heard. With some people, you may need stronger emotional boundaries of your own, learning not to take another person's drama onto yourself, to separate it from yourself, and to keep a clear mind. If we are talking about extremes, you may need to reduce contact, considering it is not someone unavoidable, like a part of your family. But regardless of the situation, the key is this: their emotional swings are not yours to absorb. Once you stop merging with their intensity, your own nervous system becomes safer.
Sign 6. They avoid vulnerability. They joke, deflect, toughen up, get cold, or get sharp the second something real comes up. Because to them, vulnerability does not feel honest, it feels dangerous. And that is why their relationships often stay functional but shallow. Why does this happen? At the core, this is usually emotional immaturity mixed with emotional starvation. People who hide behind humor, coldness, toughness, or distance often do it because real openness never felt safe. Many of them have never experienced genuine emotional closeness. They were never deeply heard, never warmly received, never allowed to be fully honest and still feel safe. So vulnerability stopped feeling like connection and started feeling like exposure. So how do you handle a person like this? If this is someone close to you and they have some willingness to grow, this is one of the areas that can soften through setting an example. People learn vulnerability not through lectures, but through finally being around someone warm, steady, and emotionally safe. Once they feel safe, their nervous system calms down and they begin to finally open up. But it only works if they are willing, and you can definitely create a proper environment for this. The only way this will not work is if their vulnerability is shut down due to severe psychological trauma. In this case, you will not be able to force openness out of someone who is committed to hiding. You will do a lot more good if you work with a professional on this.
Sign 7. They cannot connect feelings to behavior. They do not see how inner pain becomes outer damage. So the same fights repeat, the same patterns repeat, the same losses repeat. Without self-awareness, nothing really changes. Why does this happen? Because emotional pain stays unconscious until someone learns how to observe themselves honestly. They do not see how shame becomes defensiveness, how fear becomes control, how insecurity becomes cruelty, or how old wounds keep speaking through present behavior. Until a person develops self-awareness, their pain keeps running the show from the background and hurting other people while pretending it is innocent. So, how do you communicate with someone like this? If this person keeps hurting you and still cannot understand what they are doing, even when you explain it, then you need to think seriously about your own mental health. If it is someone you can leave, ask yourself whether staying is worth the cost. If it is someone you cannot easily leave, family for example, then the work becomes different. Either they are willing to listen and grow, or they are not. And if they are not, then your responsibility is no longer to fix them. It is to protect your peace, regulate your involvement, and keep whatever distance is necessary to stay mentally healthy. What makes this hard is that not every emotionally difficult person is evil. Some are wounded, some are shut down, some are immature, some are genuinely limited, and some are simply toxic. That is why the real skill is not just spotting the signs, it's learning to read what is underneath them and deciding whether this is someone you can help gently, adjust to carefully, keep at a distance, or leave behind. How do you decide? If you see that a person has the capacity to reflect, to calm down, and to come back to a normal conversation, basically if you see actions that show they are open to to change, they are making small attempts to grow and meet you halfway, that is definitely a keeper.
And this may be the most important part. Not every one of these signs means someone is a bad person. Some people are wounded, some are immature, some are emotionally shut down, some were never taught how to process pain in a healthy way. But guess what? That's all of us in one way or another, in one form or another, at some point in life. That is why empathy matters, especially with the people you love, because not every flaw has to end in distance or a broken relationship when there is still room for understanding and growth. But if there are real reasons to walk away, if the relationship is toxic, damaging, or keeps destroying your peace, then leaving may be the healthiest choice. And even then, the goal is to leave with clarity, self-respect, and emotional intelligence, of course, if it's possible. Because emotional intelligence is not only about how you stay, it is also about how you leave. Thank you for watching. If something in this video hit home, tell me in the comments, which of these 7 signs have you seen in your close ones, friends, or in yourself? Also, please show your support. Like and subscribe. One simple like tells the algorithm to show this video to 10 more people who might need it today. We love having you here. Stay tuned for our next episodes. Until next time, stay calm, stay curious, and stay connected to your inner peace.